Ever feel like there's a hidden level of consciousness you're meant to reach? In this audiobook, discover the final stage of awareness, where you unlock your true potential and experience life with clarity, purpose, and deep connection. The transformation starts here. Introduction. Have you ever wondered if there is more to your mind than meets the eye? What if you're only tapping into a fraction of your true potential, and the key to unlocking it has been within you all along? In this very moment, there is a stage of consciousness most people are unaware of. A level so transformative, it has the potential to reshape everything you think you know about yourself and the world around you. It's the final stage of consciousness, but it's a stage that remains hidden in plain sight, rarely explored, often misunderstood, and almost universally overlooked. Why is it that some individuals seem to move through life with clarity, peace, and a deep sense of connection to the universe, while others struggle with feelings of uncertainty and confusion? The answer often lies in their ability to access this final stage of consciousness. This is not some abstract concept. It's the next evolutionary leap in human awareness, a shift that is as profound as it is transformative. And yet, for many, the very idea of it seems elusive, a mystery that seems just out of reach. In this audiobook, we will unravel this mystery step by step, guiding you through the layers of self-awareness, connection, and enlightenment that define this extraordinary stage of consciousness. You're about to embark on a journey unlike any other, a journey that will guide you toward the final stage of consciousness, unlocking your true potential and offering you the tools to live a life of clarity, purpose, and profound inner peace. But this journey requires more than just intellectual understanding. It demands a willingness to open your mind and heart to new possibilities. The truths you're about to discover may challenge everything you've known, but the rewards for those who dare to venture beyond the ordinary are beyond measure. The goal of this audiobook is not to provide abstract ideas or theoretical concepts, but to offer practical, actionable insights that you can integrate into your daily life. We will provide you with the tools you need to navigate this final stage of consciousness, empowering you to not only understand it, but to live it in a way that is deeply personal and transformative. It's time to leave behind the limitations of the past and unlock the full spectrum of your consciousness. As you listen to these words, I encourage you to remain open and receptive. This isn't just an audiobook you'll listen to passively. This is a call to action, an invitation to engage with your deepest self and awaken to the transformative power of your own consciousness. No matter where you are on your journey, whether you're just beginning to explore the mysteries of the mind or you've been on a path of spiritual awakening for years, this stage of consciousness has the power to take you to new heights. It's time to take the next step. The question is, are you ready to embrace it? A transformative experience awaits. Imagine, just for a moment, what life would be like if you could fully tap into this final stage of consciousness. What if you could silence the constant noise of self-doubt and confusion and replace it with a profound sense of inner peace and clarity? What if every decision you made came from a place of deep alignment with your true self, not from fear, guilt, or societal expectations? The potential for transformation is limitless, and this stage of consciousness is the gateway to unlocking that potential. But there's more, far more than just personal empowerment. This is about connecting to the universal forces that govern life itself. It's about transcending the limited view of yourself and stepping into an entirely new paradigm where the boundaries between you and the world blur. The final stage of consciousness is where we realize that we are not separate from the universe, but intricately connected to it in ways we can hardly begin to comprehend. As we dive deeper into this audiobook, you will begin to see that consciousness isn't something you achieve or attain through effort. Instead, it's something that reveals itself to you when you create the conditions for it to unfold naturally. The final stage of consciousness is not a destination. It's a way of being, a shift in how you experience the world and your place within it. And most importantly, it's within your reach. So I ask you again, are you ready? Are you ready to leave behind the conventional and step into the extraordinary? This is more than just an exploration of the mind. This is a call to awaken to your fullest potential and experience life in a way you've never dreamed possible. The only thing standing between you and this transformation is your willingness to listen, to learn, and to act. In this audiobook, you will uncover the hidden truths about consciousness, learn how to unlock its full potential, and discover the practices and mindsets that will empower you to live life in alignment with your highest self. As you begin this journey, keep in mind that this stage of consciousness isn't something you will master overnight. It is a process, a gradual unfolding that will transform you from the inside out. But make no mistake, the rewards are worth every moment of effort, and the experience itself is nothing short of miraculous. So, let's begin. It's time to unlock the door to the final stage of consciousness, and the journey of a lifetime awaits. Chapter 1. Understanding Consciousness. What is consciousness? Consciousness. It's a term we hear often, something we experience constantly. Yet it's one of the most complex and mysterious aspects of our existence. We live within it, we are surrounded by it, and we function through it. But when asked to define it, most of us find ourselves lost for words. At its core, consciousness is the state of being aware of our own existence, thoughts, emotions, and the world around us. But to truly understand consciousness, we must look deeper, beyond its surface and into its vast, intricate layers. To many, consciousness appears to be a simple, almost mundane concept, an inevitable aspect of being alive. However, when you start to break it down, it becomes clear that consciousness is not just a passive observer of experience, but an active, evolving force that shapes and is shaped by everything we think, feel, and do. To grasp the depth of consciousness, we must first look at how it manifests in our daily lives. At its most basic level, consciousness is simply the awareness we have of our surroundings and ourselves. The ability to be aware of our thoughts, emotions, and actions is a defining characteristic of consciousness. You may wake up each morning feeling the warmth of the sun, hearing the chirp of birds outside, or noticing the thoughts that rush through your mind. This is awareness at its simplest form, the recognition that I am here, I am aware, I am alive. It's the foundation of all experiences and the baseline of our reality. But there is much more to it than just recognizing that we exist. Consciousness is not a static state. It is dynamic and ever-changing, shaped by the experiences we accumulate and the insights we gain throughout our lives. The awareness you have in any given moment is affected by your past experiences, your beliefs, your upbringing, and the society you live in. It evolves as you grow and learn. And this evolution, the progression of consciousness from one stage to another, is an important concept to understand as we explore its deeper dimensions. The human experience of consciousness is, at first glance, all deeply personal. Each person experiences the world through their own unique lens, shaped by their individual histories, desires, and perspectives. This creates what we call the self, the sense of I, the persona through which we interact with the world. We perceive ourselves as separate entities, individual beings with distinct identities and experiences. This feeling of individuality is what often defines our experience of reality. We walk through life with the understanding that we are different from the people around us, with our own thoughts, emotions, and experiences. But as we begin to delve deeper into the nature of consciousness, we start to realize that this feeling of separateness is, in many ways, an illusion. Our consciousness is not isolated. It is connected to the greater whole of existence, and the perception of self is merely a construct of the mind. It is a necessary construct for navigating the world, but it is not the entire story of who we are. Understanding this is a key part of awakening to a deeper level of consciousness, one that transcends the boundaries of the individual self and recognizes the interconnectedness of all things. As we explore the nature of consciousness, it's important to acknowledge the role of perception. Perception is the lens through which consciousness views the world. It is shaped by our beliefs, past experiences, and the information we receive from our environment. Our minds are constantly interpreting sensory data, what we see, hear, taste, and touch, and we process this information through a set of mental filters. These filters are influenced by our upbringing, culture, and personal experiences. For instance, a person raised in a particular cultural environment may interpret events or ideas differently than someone from another culture, even if they are witnessing the same thing. Our perceptions are not neutral. They are colored by the internal beliefs and expectations we hold. This means that our experience of the world is subjective, shaped by the stories we tell ourselves and the meanings we assign to events. This subjectivity is an essential feature of consciousness, as it allows us to experience the world in a uniquely personal way. However, it also means that our perceptions are not always accurate or reflective of the true nature of reality. In many ways, our perceptions create the reality we live in. The way we interpret our surroundings, the people we encounter, and even our own emotions. All of these factors are filtered through the lens of consciousness. And because consciousness is not fixed, but evolves with time, the way we perceive the world can change as well. The layers of consciousness. To fully understand consciousness, we must recognize that it is not a single monolithic state. Rather, it exists in layers, each representing a different level of awareness. The most obvious layer is the level of ordinary waking consciousness, the awareness we experience while we are awake and alert. This is the state in which we live most of our lives. It is the awareness we use to navigate the world, make decisions, and interact with others. It is the realm of thought, where our mental chatter and inner dialogue take place. It is also where we experience our emotions and make sense of our experiences. On the surface, this layer of consciousness appears to be the real consciousness, as it is the most immediately accessible. However, it is only one layer in a vast spectrum of consciousness that extends far beyond our daily waking experiences. Below this ordinary consciousness lies a deeper, more subtle layer of awareness. This is the realm of the subconscious mind, a place where thoughts, memories, and feelings that are not immediately in the forefront of our awareness reside. The subconscious mind is like a vast storehouse, holding all the experiences, beliefs, and emotions that shape our actions and decisions, but which we may not be actively conscious of. The subconscious mind is more powerful than our conscious mind because it influences our behavior and thought patterns without us even realizing it. The beliefs and memories stored in the subconscious are often formed during our early years and can have a profound impact on how we perceive the world and react to situations. For example, someone who had a difficult childhood may carry unconscious beliefs about themselves or the world that affect their relationships or sense of self-worth. These subconscious beliefs can be difficult to access or change, but they are critical to understanding the full picture of consciousness. In fact, many spiritual practices, such as meditation or self-inquiry, aim to bring the subconscious mind to the surface so that we can become more aware of the patterns that govern our lives. But consciousness doesn't stop there. Beyond the conscious and subconscious layers, there are even deeper levels of awareness, ones that transcend the individual self and the boundaries of the ego. These higher states of consciousness are often described as transcendent or spiritual states, where the individual sense of self dissolves and one experiences a sense of unity with the world around them. In these states, the perception of separateness fades away, and there is an overwhelming sense of oneness with everything. This is often referred to as higher consciousness or expanded awareness. It is the realization that the individual I is not the true essence of who we are, but rather an illusion created by the mind. In these higher states, we begin to experience life not as separate individuals, but as interconnected parts of a greater whole. This level of consciousness is difficult to describe because it is not something that can be grasped by the rational mind. It is not something that can be understood through intellectual reasoning. Instead, it must be experienced directly through deep states of meditation, contemplation, or mystical experience. The deeper we go into consciousness, the more we begin to realize that it is not confined to the individual mind or body, but is part of a universal field of awareness that permeates all of existence. The evolution of consciousness. Understanding the layers of consciousness is just the beginning. To truly grasp the full potential of consciousness, we must consider how it evolves over time. Human consciousness is not a static phenomenon. It is constantly growing, shifting, and expanding. Throughout history, humanity has undergone tremendous changes in its collective consciousness, from the early stages of primitive awareness to the complex, interconnected global society we live in today. And on an individual level, each person's consciousness evolves over the course of their life. As we mature, we gain new insights, shed old beliefs, and shift our perspectives. We move from a narrow, self-centered awareness to a broader, more inclusive sense of connection with others in the world. This evolution is not linear, nor is it always predictable. Some individuals experience rapid shifts in consciousness, while others may remain in a more limited state for much of their lives. But regardless of the pace, the evolution of consciousness is a natural part of the human experience. As we grow, we become more aware of the vastness of our inner world, and we begin to realize that our consciousness is not confined to our individual selves. We begin to understand that the mind, the body, and the world are all interconnected, and that the boundaries between them are not as rigid as they once seemed. The evolution of consciousness is also closely tied to the process of awakening. Awakening refers to the moment when an individual begins to see through the illusion of the separate self and experiences a deeper, more expansive sense of being. This awakening can occur gradually or suddenly, and it is often accompanied by profound shifts in perception. When we awaken, we begin to realize that we are not limited by our thoughts, emotions, or the stories we tell ourselves. We begin to see through the veils of the ego and recognize that our true nature is much greater than the individual I. This awakening is not a one-time event, but an ongoing process, a deepening of awareness that continues throughout our lives. It is the process of uncovering the truth of who we are, of peeling away the layers of illusion that have been built up over time, and of realizing our true nature as interconnected, conscious beings. As we move forward in this book, we will explore the many ways in which consciousness evolves, from the most basic levels of awareness to the profound realization of oneness with all that is. But for now, it is important to recognize that consciousness is not something fixed or limited. It is a dynamic, ever-changing force that flows through us and shapes our reality. The more we learn about it, the more we can unlock its potential, both for ourselves and for the world around us. Through understanding consciousness, we begin the journey of self-discovery and spiritual awakening, a journey that holds the key to unlocking our true potential and experiencing the profound unity that lies at the heart of existence. Chapter 2. The Nature of the Self. Who are you really? The Illusion of the Self. One of the most profound questions we can ask ourselves is, who am I? This question, though simple on the surface, can lead us down an intricate, sometimes challenging, and deeply transformative path. It forces us to confront the nature of our existence and understand the very essence of who we are. On the surface, the answer may seem straightforward. We are our names, our identities, our roles in society. We are the person we see in the mirror every day. But as we dig deeper into the question, we start to encounter the vast complexity that underpins our understanding of self. At the heart of this exploration lies the realization that the self is not as fixed or as concrete as we often believe it to be. In fact, the very concept of the self is, in many ways, an illusion. From the moment we are born, we begin to construct an identity. Our minds start to form a picture of who we are based on the information we receive from the world around us. We identify with our body, our thoughts, and our emotions, believing that we are the sum total of these things. We form attachments to our labels. I am a teacher. I am a mother. I am a writer. And these labels shape the way we see ourselves. But if we dig even deeper, we begin to realize that these labels are not who we truly are. They are external markers that do not capture the fullness of our being. Our sense of self is shaped by our experiences, yes, but it is also constantly changing, fluid, and far more transient than we might think. We may experience moments of joy, anger, sadness, or fear, but none of these emotions define us. They are simply temporary states that arise and pass away. So, who are we really? What is the essence of our being beyond the fleeting thoughts, emotions, and labels that we cling to? The idea of the self is deeply tied to the ego, the part of our consciousness that identifies with the individual. The ego is a necessary part of our psychological makeup, serving as a tool for navigating the world and maintaining a sense of individuality. However, the ego also creates a sense of separation, convincing us that we are isolated beings, separate from others and from the world around us. This belief in separation is the root of much suffering. When we identify too strongly with the ego, we begin to define ourselves by our limitations, by our past experiences, by the roles we play in society. We start to believe that we are nothing more than our thoughts and experiences, trapped within the confines of the body. This belief in a separate self creates feelings of isolation, fear, and ultimately, a longing for connection. But if we look closely, we begin to see that the ego is not the true self. It is a construct, an illusion that serves a purpose, but one that obscures the deeper truth of who we are. The ego and its role. The ego is not inherently bad or wrong. It is simply a part of the mind's natural development. As we grow, we need the ego to help us navigate the world, to distinguish ourselves from others, and to function in society. Without the ego, we would struggle to form a coherent sense of identity, and we would have difficulty making decisions or interacting with others. The ego allows us to understand ourselves as separate individuals with unique desires, experiences, and perspectives. It is through the ego that we develop a sense of self-preservation, the ability to set boundaries, and the drive to achieve our goals. It is a survival mechanism, helping us to operate within the parameters of society and the physical world. However, the ego can become problematic when it becomes overinflated or rigid. When we become too attached to our ego, we begin to lose sight of our deeper, more expansive nature. We start to believe that we are defined by our thoughts, our emotions, and our external circumstances. We identify with our successes and failures, our possessions and achievements, and we come to see ourselves as separate from others. This sense of separation fuels feelings of competition, comparison, and inadequacy. We feel the need to prove our worth to others, to defend our sense of self, and to constantly seek validation. The more we cling to the ego, the more we reinforce the illusion of separateness. But this attachment to the ego ultimately leads to dissatisfaction and suffering. The key to transcending the limitations of the ego is awareness. By becoming more conscious of the ego's influence, we can begin to disidentify from it. We can start to recognize the difference between the ego and the true self. The ego is often driven by fear, insecurity, and the desire for control, but the true self is rooted in love, connection, and presence. The the true self is not concerned with status or validation. It is simply aware, content, and at peace with itself. As we begin to awaken to the true nature of the self, we begin to loosen our grip on the ego and allow ourselves to experience life in a more expansive and free way. We start to see that we are not confined by the limitations of our thoughts or identities. Instead, we are vast, boundless beings, connected to everything and everyone around us. The true self, beyond the ego. So, if we are not the ego, then who or what are we really? The answer to this question lies in the exploration of the true self, the essence of who we are beyond the roles we play and the thoughts we think. The true self is not something that can be grasped by the mind or the ego, as it exists beyond the realm of thought and perception. It is the silent witness, the underlying awareness that observes all experiences without judgment or attachment. This true self is often referred to as the higher self, the soul or spirit, terms that point to an aspect of our being that transcends the physical body and the individual mind. It is the part of us that is eternal, unchanging, and interconnected with all of existence. The true self is not bound by time or space. It is not limited to the present moment or confined to a particular identity. It is, in essence, consciousness itself, the awareness that pervades everything. The true self is the ground of being, the source from which all experience arises. It is not something that we can acquire or attain. It is already within us, waiting to be realized. When we experience moments of deep peace, joy, or transcendence, we are often glimpsing this true self. These moments may arise during meditation, in moments of deep connection with nature, or during profound moments of insight or clarity. In these moments, we feel a sense of oneness with everything around us, a deep sense of unity that transcends the individual self. This awareness of the true self is not something that can be grasped through intellectual understanding alone. It must be experienced directly. The true self is not an object of thought. It is the subject, the witness that observes all thoughts and experiences. As we deepen our practice of self-awareness, we begin to recognize the presence of the true self within us. It is not something that we need to create or become. It is already here, within us. It is the essence of who we are, beyond the fleeting thoughts and emotions of the ego. In the process of awakening, we gradually begin to disidentify with the ego and identify with the true self. We start to see ourselves as more than just our thoughts, our emotions, or our external circumstances. We begin to recognize that we are the awareness that observes all of these things, and that this awareness is not separate from the world around us. As we awaken to the true self, we experience a profound sense of liberation, a freedom from the constraints of the ego and the limitations of individual identity. We begin to see that we are not isolated beings, but interconnected expressions of a greater universal consciousness. This realization brings with it a deep sense of peace, joy, and love, an inner knowing that we are part of something much greater than ourselves. As we continue our journey of self-discovery, it is essential to remember that the true self is not something that we find or attain through effort or striving. It is something that we awaken to, something that is already present within us. The more we cultivate awareness and presence in our daily lives, the more we begin to realize the true nature of who we are. And as we awaken to this deeper level of consciousness, we begin to experience the world in a completely new way, one that is rooted in love, connection, and unity. Through this awakening, we come to understand that the boundaries we once perceived as real, between ourselves and others, between self and world, are merely constructs of the mind. In reality, we are all expressions of the same interconnected consciousness, and the true self is the recognition of this profound unity. This understanding is the foundation for spiritual growth and personal transformation. By awakening to the true self, we transcend the limitations of the ego and embrace the boundless potential that lies within us all. The journey of self-realization is not one of acquiring or attaining something new, but of uncovering the truth of who we have always been. As we continue to explore the nature of the self, we unlock the door to deeper levels of consciousness and a more profound connection to the world around us. And in doing so, we come to realize that the ultimate truth is simple. We are not separate from life, but an inseparable part of it, ever unfolding and ever awakening. Chapter 3. The Power of Awareness, Awakening to the Present Moment. The essence of awareness is a gift that we often take for granted, yet it is the very foundation of our experience. Without awareness, nothing would exist for us. It is the lens through which we perceive the world, the canvas upon which all of our thoughts, emotions, and actions are painted. But how often do we truly pay attention to the power of awareness itself? How frequently do we pause to recognize that it is the one constant in our lives, always present, always observing, always aware? Awareness is not something we can touch or grasp with our minds, yet it is the essence of who we are and what we experience. It is the silent, ever-present observer that watches as life unfolds, and it is through this awareness that we are able to make sense of our world. Awareness is not simply the ability to notice things, but the ability to deeply observe and experience the present moment with full clarity and presence. It is the state of being awake to what is without judgment, without distraction, and without attachment. When we are truly aware, we are no longer lost in the constant chatter of the mind or absorbed by the demands of our external circumstances. Instead, we are grounded in the present moment, fully engaged with whatever is happening right here, right now. This kind of awareness is not the same as the mental activity of thinking, analyzing, or evaluating. It is the pure, undistracted attention that allows us to experience life as it is, without the filters of judgment or expectation. It is a state of being that transcends the normal fluctuations of thought and emotion, allowing us to connect more deeply with the essence of who we are. And yet, despite its power, awareness is something that many of us rarely cultivate. We are often so caught up in the past or the future, so entangled in our own thoughts and worries, that we forget to be fully present with what is. But when we begin to recognize the importance of awareness, we can start to shift our focus from the distractions of the mind to the simple act of being present with ourselves and the world around us. In doing so, we unlock a deeper level of consciousness, one that allows us to experience life in a more vivid, rich, and meaningful way. Awareness is a doorway to the present moment, and the present moment is where true life resides. We often hear the phrase, live in the moment, but what does that actually mean? To live in the moment is to fully immerse ourselves in the current experience without being swept away by thoughts about the past or the future. It is to embrace what is happening right now with openness and acceptance, without the need to change or control it. When we are truly present, we begin to notice the richness and depth of life that we often overlook. The subtle sensations of the body, the sounds of nature, the warmth of the sun on our skin. These are the details that make up the present moment, and when we bring our full awareness to them, we begin to experience life in a completely new way. Awareness brings us back to the essence of existence, allowing us to reconnect with the simplicity and beauty of being alive. It invites us to slow down, to breathe deeply, and to fully appreciate the miracle of the present moment. This awareness is the gateway to the deeper dimensions of consciousness. It is through the cultivation of awareness that we can begin to experience the profound sense of interconnectedness that lies at the heart of all things. When we are present, we are no longer separated from the world around us. We become one with it, experiencing the unity of all existence. The more we awaken to awareness, the more we realize that the boundaries we once perceived as real, between ourselves and others, between self and world, are mere illusions. In truth, we are all expressions of the same universal consciousness, connected by the threads of awareness that weave through all things. Awareness is the key that unlocks this understanding, allowing us to experience life not as separate individuals, but as part of a greater, interconnected whole. The practice of mindfulness. While awareness is a natural aspect of our being, it is also something that we can cultivate through conscious practice. One of the most effective ways to deepen our awareness and reconnect with the present moment is through the practice of mindfulness. Mindfulness is the art of paying attention, of being fully present with whatever is happening in the moment, without judgment or distraction. It is the practice of observing our thoughts, emotions, and sensations with an open, accepting attitude, without the need to change or control them. Mindfulness is not about achieving a particular state or outcome. It is simply about being present with what is. The practice of mindfulness can take many forms. It can be practiced through meditation, where we sit quietly and focus our attention on the breath, the body, or a particular object of focus. It can also be practiced in everyday activities, such as eating, walking, or listening. The key is to bring our full attention to whatever we are doing, without letting our minds wander or get caught up in distractions. When we practice mindfulness, we begin to notice the subtleties of our experience, the sensations of the body, the sounds around us, the thoughts that come and go. We begin to see how the mind constantly fluctuates, moving from one thought to the next, and we learn to observe these thoughts without becoming attached to them. Mindfulness also helps us to cultivate a greater sense of awareness and acceptance of our emotions. Often, we are so focused on avoiding or suppressing our feelings that we fail to fully experience them. But when we practice mindfulness, we learn to sit with our emotions without judgment, allowing them to arise and pass without resistance. We begin to see that emotions are not permanent states. They are simply temporary fluctuations in the mind and body. By becoming more aware of our emotional experiences, we can start to release the attachment we have to them, allowing them to flow freely and without obstruction. This practice of mindfulness helps to create a sense of spaciousness in the mind, allowing us to respond to life with greater clarity and equanimity. Mindfulness is a powerful tool for cultivating awareness, but it is not always easy. In our fast-paced, distracted world, it can be challenging to remain fully present with what is happening around us. Our minds are constantly pulled in a million different directions, and the demands of modern life often leave us feeling overwhelmed and disconnected. But even in the midst of the chaos, we can find moments of mindfulness. We can bring our attention to the breath, to the sensations of the body, or to the sounds in the environment. These simple practices help to anchor us in the present moment, allowing us to experience life more fully and with greater awareness. Through the consistent practice of mindfulness, we begin to train the mind to be more focused, more present, and more attuned to the richness of each moment. Over time, this practice becomes second nature, and we find ourselves living more consciously, more fully, and with greater ease. The transformative power of presence. The power of awareness and mindfulness goes beyond simply being present in the moment. It has the potential to transform our lives in profound ways. When we begin to cultivate a deeper sense of awareness, we start to notice the patterns and habits that have been driving our behavior, often without us even realizing it. We become more aware of our thoughts, our reactions, and the unconscious beliefs that shape our experience. This awareness allows us to step out of the automatic, reactive patterns of the mind and begin to make more conscious choices in our lives. One of the most powerful ways that awareness transforms us is by helping us to break free from the grip of negative thought patterns and limiting beliefs. When we are caught up in the whirlwind of thoughts, we often get lost in the stories we tell ourselves, stories of fear, worry, guilt, or regret. These thoughts create a sense of separation, of isolation, and of disconnection from our true nature. But when we bring awareness to these thoughts, we begin to see them for what they are: temporary mental events that do not define us. With mindfulness, we can start to disidentify from these thoughts, allowing them to arise and pass without attaching meaning or significance to them. This shift in awareness allows us to see life with fresh eyes. We begin to recognize that we are not our thoughts or emotions. We are the awareness that observes them. This realization is liberating because it frees us from the tyranny of the mind. We no longer have to be controlled by our past conditioning, our fears, or our insecurities. Instead, we can respond to life from a place of presence, clarity, and openness. Awareness also transforms our relationships with others. When we are fully present with another person, we are able to listen more deeply, to connect more authentically, and to respond with greater compassion and understanding. Presence allows us to be fully attuned to the needs and emotions of others, without the distractions of our own thoughts or judgments. This deep presence fosters a sense of connection and intimacy, allowing us to build more meaningful and fulfilling relationships. The transformative power of presence extends to all areas of our lives. When we are present, we are more attuned to our intuition, more aware of the opportunities and challenges that arise, and more able to respond with wisdom and grace. Presence allows us to navigate life with a sense of ease, as we are no longer burdened by the weight of the past or the anxiety of the future. We begin to trust the flow of life, knowing that each moment is exactly as it should be. Through the cultivation of awareness, we tap into a deeper level of consciousness, one that allows us to experience life in its fullest, most vibrant form. As we awaken to the power of presence, we unlock our true potential, embracing the richness and beauty of each moment. In this journey of awakening, awareness is the key that unlocks the door to a more meaningful and transformative life. By cultivating mindfulness, we become more attuned to the present moment, more aware of our true nature, and more connected to the world around us. This awareness not only transforms our inner experience, but it also ripples outward, affecting our relationships, our actions, and the way we engage with the world. Through presence, we step into the fullness of life, awakening to the profound truth that we are not separate from the world, but a part of it, intricately woven into the fabric of existence itself. Chapter 4: The Nature of Reality. Understanding the world around you. The illusion of the external world. To truly understand the nature of reality, we must first come to terms with the profound realization that much of what we perceive is an illusion. This may sound counterintuitive, as our senses give us a detailed, tangible experience of the world around us. Yet the nature of perception itself is far more complex than we tend to believe. We live our lives as though the world exists independently of us, as though the objects we see, the people we meet, and the events we experience are all separate from the consciousness that perceives them. However, when we dive deeper into the nature of perception, we realize that the world as we know it is, in fact, a mental construct, a series of images, sounds, and sensations that arise in our minds in response to external stimuli. The world we experience is not an objective reality. It is filtered through our senses and interpreted by our minds, shaped by our beliefs, experiences, and conditioning. At every moment, the brain is receiving information from the external world through the senses. This information is then processed and interpreted, creating the reality we perceive. The colors we see, the sounds we hear, the textures we touch, they are all mental representations constructed by the mind. The brain does not directly experience the external world. It only receives signals and constructs an internal map based on those signals. The world as we experience it is not a direct reflection of what is out there, but rather a projection of the mind, shaped by our perceptions and beliefs. This understanding is rooted in the ancient wisdom of many spiritual traditions, which have long taught that the world is an illusion or a maya. In these teachings, the world is seen as a veil that obscures the deeper truth of our existence, a surface reality that distracts us from the underlying unity and oneness of all things. This illusion of separateness is one of the most pervasive misconceptions we hold about reality. We tend to believe that the world exists independently of us, that there is a clear boundary between ourselves and everything else. But when we explore the nature of perception, we begin to see that this boundary is not as solid as we once thought. The more we look into the mechanics of perception, the more we realize that there is no clear line between the observer and the observed. The world we see is not an objective reality. It is a reflection of the mind's activity, a projection of consciousness. Our experience of the world is shaped by our thoughts, our emotions, and our beliefs, and as such, it is constantly changing. The world we see is not fixed. It is fluid and constantly shifting, depending on how we choose to perceive it. The realization that the world is an illusion does not mean that it is unreal, but rather that it is not the absolute, unchanging reality we often take it to be. It is a dynamic, ever-changing experience that arises in the mind, and as such, it is deeply influenced by our consciousness. The role of consciousness in shaping reality. If the external world is, in part, an illusion, then what is the true nature of reality? The answer to this question lies in understanding the central role that consciousness plays in shaping our experience of the world. Consciousness is the very fabric of reality. It is the underlying awareness that perceives everything. The mind, with all its thoughts, emotions, and perceptions, arises within consciousness. And consciousness is the lens through which we view and interpret the world. To put it simply, consciousness is not just an observer of reality. It is the creator of reality itself. One of the most profound insights in the exploration of consciousness is the understanding that our experience of reality is not objective, but subjective. We do not experience the world as it truly is. We experience it as our consciousness interprets it. This means that two people can look at the same object or event and have vastly different experiences of it, depending on their individual perceptions, beliefs, and mental states. For example, one person may see a beautiful sunset and feel awe and peace, while another person may view the same sunset and feel sadness or longing. The sunset itself does not carry any inherent meaning. Rather, the meaning is created by the consciousness of the observer. This is a powerful realization because it highlights the fact that our experience of reality is not fixed or objective, but is instead shaped by the consciousness that perceives it. Consciousness is not limited to the individual mind. It is universal and all-encompassing. This realization is at the heart of many spiritual teachings, which assert that consciousness is the ultimate reality, and that the individual self is but a temporary expression of this larger, universal consciousness. The idea that consciousness shapes reality can be difficult to grasp, especially when we are so used to thinking of reality as something separate from ourselves. However, when we explore the nature of consciousness, we begin to understand that everything we experience arises within it. Our thoughts, emotions, perceptions, and even our sense of self. All of these are aspects of consciousness. When we look closely at the world around us, we begin to see that it is not as solid and separate as it appears. Instead, it is a manifestation of consciousness itself, ever-changing, ever-shifting, and always in the process of being created. Consciousness is not a passive observer. It is an active participant in the creation of reality, shaping and molding the world according to its perceptions and beliefs. This understanding has profound implications for how we interact with the world. If reality is shaped by consciousness, then we have the power to shape our experience of reality by shifting our consciousness. By changing the way we perceive the world, we can change the world itself. This does not mean that we can control the external circumstances of our lives, but it does mean that we have the ability to transform the way we experience those circumstances. Through practices such as meditation, mindfulness, and self-inquiry, we can begin to shift our consciousness, allowing us to see the world in a new light. As we become more aware of the role that consciousness plays in shaping our experience, we begin to see the world not as something fixed and unchanging, but as a fluid and dynamic expression of awareness. This realization opens up new possibilities for how we live our lives, allowing us to move beyond the limitations of the ego and the mind and into a deeper, more expansive understanding of reality. The interconnectedness of all things. One of the most profound realizations that arises from an exploration of consciousness is the understanding that everything is interconnected. As we begin to see that the world is a mental construct shaped by consciousness, we also begin to see that there is no true separation between ourselves and the world around us. The illusion of separateness, the belief that we are separate from other people, from nature, from the universe itself, is one of the greatest sources of suffering in our lives. This sense of separation is reinforced by the ego, which constantly reinforces the idea that we are individuals, isolated and apart from the rest of existence. However, when we begin to understand the true nature of reality, we begin to see that the boundaries between self and other are not as real as they seem. In reality, everything is interconnected, and all things arise from the same source of consciousness. This interconnectedness is not just a philosophical concept. It is a direct experience that we can access through awareness. When we become more mindful and present, we begin to notice the subtle connections between ourselves and the world around us. We begin to see that everything is part of a greater whole, that every thought, every action, and every event is connected in ways that we may not fully understand. This understanding can be transformative as it shifts our perception of the world from one of separation and isolation to one of unity and oneness. We begin to see that we are not isolated individuals, but expressions of the same consciousness that pervades all things. This realization opens our hearts to compassion and understanding, as we recognize that the same consciousness that lives within us also lives within others and within all of creation. The interconnectedness of all things also has practical implications for how we live our lives. When we recognize that our actions and thoughts have an impact on the world around us, we become more conscious of how we interact with others and with the environment. We begin to see that our well-being is intimately connected with the well-being of others and the planet itself. This awareness fosters a sense of responsibility and stewardship, as we realize that we are not separate from the world, but are an integral part of it. By living in harmony with the world around us, we contribute to the greater good, not just for ourselves, but for all beings. As we cultivate this awareness of interconnectedness, we begin to live more mindfully, more compassionately, and with a deeper sense of purpose and meaning. The interconnectedness of all things is not just a philosophical idea, but a direct experience that we can cultivate through awareness and presence. When we begin to see the world as a reflection of consciousness, we recognize that we are not separate from it, but are part of the same living, breathing web of existence. This understanding brings with it a deep sense of peace, as we realize that we are not alone, but are an inseparable part of the larger whole. The more we awaken to this truth, the more we experience life as a continuous flow of interconnected moments, each one arising from the same source of awareness. This understanding transforms the way we experience reality, allowing us to move beyond the illusion of separateness and into a deeper, more expansive experience of oneness and unity. In this way, the nature of reality is not just an intellectual concept. It is a lived experience that can bring profound peace, joy, and understanding into our lives. As we continue to explore the nature of reality, we come to realize that it is not something fixed or static. It is a dynamic, ever-changing expression of consciousness, shaped by the way we perceive and experience it. Through awareness, we begin to see that the world is not separate from us, but is a reflection of our own consciousness, interconnected and fluid. The more we awaken to the true nature of reality, the more we realize that we are not isolated individuals, but interconnected expressions of the same universal consciousness. This realization is the key to living a life of peace, love, and fulfillment as we move beyond the illusion of separateness and into a deeper understanding of the interconnectedness of all things. Chapter 5. The Nature of Time. Understanding the Temporal Illusion. Time as a construct of the mind. Time is one of the most fundamental aspects of human experience. It is something that we are all intimately familiar with, yet it remains one of the most elusive and paradoxical concepts to grasp. Time governs our lives, dictates the rhythm of our days, and shapes our perceptions of reality. But what is time really? Is it something that exists independently of us? Or is it merely a construct of the mind, an illusion we have created to make sense of our experiences? To explore the nature of time, we must first examine how we experience it. We often think of time as something linear, past, present, and future, a continuous, unbroken flow from one moment to the next. We think of time as a river, with each second flowing inevitably toward the next, never stopping, never reversing. Yet, when we examine our experience more closely, we begin to notice that time is not so straightforward. In fact, time as we experience it is deeply subjective. At its core, time is a mental construct, a way of organizing our experiences. It is a tool that we use to make sense of the world, to create a narrative that helps us understand the sequence of events in our lives. But the very idea of time as we know it is something that arises within consciousness. It is a product of the mind's need to categorize and structure experience. The past is a collection of memories, the future a series of anticipations, and the present a fleeting moment that is never truly graspable. The mind organizes these moments into a linear sequence, creating the illusion of a continuous, objective flow. But in reality, the past is not a fixed, unchanging entity, nor is the future an inevitable outcome. The past is a fluid, ever-changing memory that shifts depending on our perception of it, while the future is an imagined possibility shaped by our hopes, fears, and expectations. In truth, the only time that is real is the present moment, the now. And even that is fleeting, constantly slipping away as we try to hold on to it. This realization challenges our conventional understanding of time. We have been conditioned to believe that time is an objective reality, something that exists outside of us, moving forward with or without our consent. We view time as something that happens to us, something that we are powerless to control. But when we shift our perspective and begin to recognize that time is a mental construct, we see that it is not as rigid or fixed as we once thought. Time in its true nature is not linear or predictable. It is fluid, subjective, and dependent on our consciousness. The mind plays a crucial role in shaping our experience of time, and as such, our perception of time can be influenced by many factors, such as our state of mind, our emotional state, and our level of presence in the moment. When we are fully immersed in the present, time seems to slow down, stretching out into eternity. Conversely, when we are distracted or lost in thought, time seems to speed up, slipping away unnoticed. The more we become aware of the subjective nature of time, the more we realize that it is not something that happens to us, but something that we experience, shaped by our awareness. Understanding that time is a construct of the mind has profound implications for how we live our lives. If time is not an objective reality, but rather a product of consciousness, then we have the ability to shape our experience of it. We can begin to free ourselves from the tyranny of the clock, from the constant pressure to be somewhere else, doing something else. By shifting our focus to the present moment, we can begin to dissolve the illusion of time and experience life in a more fluid, timeless way. The key to transcending the limitations of time lies in cultivating presence, the ability to be fully immersed in the here and now without being pulled into the past or the future. When we are truly present, time ceases to dominate our experience. We become timeless, free from the constraints of the past and the future, and instead experience life as a continuous, ever-unfolding moment. The illusion of past and future. One of the greatest illusions of time is the belief in the past and the future as fixed, separate entities. We tend to think of the past as a collection of events that have already happened, and the future as a set of possibilities that are yet to unfold. But when we look closely at our experience, we realize that neither the past nor the future truly exists. The past is nothing more than a collection of memories, constantly reconstructed by the mind. It is not a fixed, objective reality, but a mental image created from fragments of experience. Our memories are not static. They change over time, influenced by our current beliefs, emotions, and perceptions. What we remember is not always an accurate reflection of what actually happened, but rather a version of events shaped by our minds. The past, in this sense, is not something that exists in the external world, but something that exists only within our consciousness, constantly shifting and evolving based on our present understanding. Similarly, the future is not a concrete reality, but an imagined possibility. We often think of the future as something that is waiting to happen, something that is predetermined or inevitable. But the future is not fixed. It is shaped by our thoughts, beliefs, and actions in the present. The future is an unfolding sequence of potential events, influenced by the choices we make in the here and now. The future does not exist until we create it, and it is constantly changing based on our perceptions and expectations. In this way, the future is just as subjective as the past. Both the past and the future are constructs of the mind, projections of consciousness that have no independent existence outside of our perception of them. This realization challenges our conventional view of time as linear and fixed. We often live as though the past is something we cannot change, and the future is something that is set in stone. But when we recognize that the past and the future are not separate, objective realities, we see that they are not as powerful as we once thought. The past is not a chain that binds us, and the future is not a set of inevitable outcomes. Both are fluid and malleable, shaped by our consciousness. This understanding gives us the power to transform our relationship with time. We no longer have to be prisoners of the past or slaves to the future. We can begin to live in the present, free from the weight of past regrets and future anxieties. When we live in the present moment, we stop being victims of time and become active participants in the creation of our own experience. Transcending time, the eternal now. The true nature of time can be found in the present moment, the eternal now. The present moment is the only time that truly exists, and it is in the present that we experience life in its fullest form. When we are fully present, we are no longer bound by the past or the future. We are no longer caught up in the illusion of time, but instead are immersed in the timeless flow of life. In the present moment, there is no past to regret, no future to fear. There is only the pure, unfiltered experience of what is. This experience is not limited by time. It is beyond time, transcending the boundaries of past and future. In the present, we are free from the constraints of linear time and can experience life as it truly is, vast, infinite, and unbounded. To transcend time is not to reject it, but to see it for what it truly is, a mental construct, a tool that we use to organize our experiences. When we live in the present moment, we begin to dissolve the illusion of time and experience life in a more expansive, timeless way. Time no longer has the power to control us. Instead, we become free to live fully in the moment, to embrace the richness of life without being tethered to the past or the future. In the timeless now, there is no need to rush, no need to hurry. No need to chase after the next moment. There is only the experience of what is as it unfolds before us. The key to transcending time is to cultivate presence. Presence is the ability to be fully immersed in the present moment, to let go of the past and the future, and to experience life without distraction. When we are present, time seems to fade away. We become timeless, at one with the flow of life. This experience of timelessness is not something we need to search for or attain. It is already here in every moment. The more we practice presence, the more we begin to recognize that time is not something that controls us, but something that we can transcend. In the present moment, we are free to experience life in its fullness, without the limitations of the past or the future. In the ultimate sense, the eternal now is not just a philosophical concept, but a lived experience that we can tap into at any moment. By bringing our full attention to the present moment, we step out of the illusion of time and into the timeless flow of existence. This experience of the eternal now is the gateway to a deeper understanding of reality, one that transcends the limitations of time and opens us up to the vastness of existence. Through presence, we can experience life in its fullest, most expansive form, free from the constraints of time and the illusions of the mind. In this way, time is not something to be feared or controlled, but something to be understood and transcended. By recognizing the illusory nature of time and cultivating presence in the eternal now, we free ourselves from the tyranny of time and open ourselves to the boundless possibilities of the present moment. Through this shift in consciousness, we come to experience life in a way that is beyond time, eternal, unchanging, and infinite. Chapter 6. The Mind and Its Power. Unlocking the potential within the mind as the gateway to reality. The mind is one of the most powerful and complex aspects of our existence. It is the lens through which we perceive the world, and it shapes not only our understanding of reality, but also the way we interact with it. Yet, despite its vast influence, many of us remain unaware of the true power of the mind, often allowing it to function on autopilot without ever pausing to examine how it operates. To unlock the potential within us, it is crucial that we begin to understand the nature of the mind, how it shapes our perceptions, controls our responses, and influences our reality. Most of us are familiar with the conscious mind, the part of our mental apparatus that we use in our everyday activities, thinking, reasoning, making decisions. However, the conscious mind is only a small fraction of the totality of the mind. Beneath it lies the subconscious mind, which holds a far greater influence over our lives than we realize. It is the subconscious mind that governs our habits, emotional responses, and beliefs, many of which operate outside of our conscious awareness. The subconscious is the part of the mind that stores the patterns, memories, and conditioning that influence our thoughts and actions, often without us even realizing it. In many ways, the subconscious mind functions as a filter through which we interpret reality. It holds on to beliefs formed from past experiences, cultural influences, and societal conditioning, and it automatically applies these beliefs to new situations. Because the subconscious mind operates so powerfully and outside our conscious awareness, it is capable of shaping our perception of the world, influencing the way we see ourselves and others, and determining how we respond to circumstances. The challenge, then, is not merely to think differently, but to become aware of the subconscious patterns that limit our potential. It is these deeply ingrained beliefs and thought patterns that often prevent us from stepping into our full potential. The key to unlocking the power of the mind lies in understanding these subconscious mechanisms and learning how to reprogram them. When we begin to examine the contents of our subconscious mind, our automatic thoughts, conditioned responses, and ingrained beliefs, we can start to see how they influence our behavior and ultimately the reality we experience. This is the first step in reclaiming our power and using the mind as a tool to shape the life we desire. By cultivating awareness of our subconscious mind and recognizing the way it shapes our reality, we begin to realize that the mind is not a passive observer of life, but an active participant in its creation. Our thoughts are not just fleeting mental events, they are the building blocks of our reality. The energy we put into our thoughts, the beliefs we hold about ourselves and the world, and the emotions we attach to these thoughts all work together to create the life we experience. The mind, in essence, is the creative force behind everything that happens in our lives. Whether we realize it or not, we are constantly creating our reality with the thoughts and beliefs we hold. The more we become aware of this creative power, the more we realize that we have the ability to change our reality simply by changing the way we think and perceive. This realization is both empowering and humbling, for it reveals that the power to create the life we desire lies within us, and it is our responsibility to harness this power consciously. The subconscious mind and its influence on perception. As we delve deeper into the mechanics of the mind, one of the most important concepts to understand is the profound influence the subconscious mind has on our perception of reality. Our perception of the world is not a direct reflection of objective reality. It is shaped and filtered through the lens of our subconscious mind. Everything we perceive, whether it's the people we interact with, the circumstances we find ourselves in, or the events that unfold in our lives, is colored by the beliefs, biases, and expectations stored in the subconscious. In fact, our subconscious mind plays such a powerful role in shaping our perception that it often creates a reality that feels completely real to us, even though it may not accurately reflect the external world. This influence of the subconscious is most evident in our emotional responses. For example, we may experience fear or anxiety in situations where, on the surface, there is no immediate threat. This fear is not necessarily rooted in the present moment, but in past experiences or traumas stored in the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind has a way of triggering emotional reactions based on past patterns, and it applies these automatic responses to new situations, even when they are not warranted. Similarly, our beliefs about ourselves, such as feelings of inadequacy, unworthiness, or fear of failure, are often subconscious beliefs that shape how we perceive our abilities and potential. These beliefs can lead to self-sabotage, imposter syndrome, or a general sense of limitation that prevents us from fully realizing our potential. Furthermore, the subconscious mind influences how we interpret the behaviors and actions of others. We may perceive someone as being rude or distant based on our own internal filters, even when their actions may have no such intention. Our past experiences, cultural conditioning, and personal beliefs shape the way we interpret the world, and as a result, we may find ourselves projecting our own insecurities, fears, and biases onto others. This dynamic creates a cycle in which we see the world not as it truly is, but as we have conditioned ourselves to perceive it. It is this cycle of perception, fueled by subconscious beliefs, that limits our ability to experience life in a more open and expansive way. To break free from this cycle, we must become aware of the subconscious filters that shape our perceptions and begin to challenge the beliefs that limit us. By reprogramming the subconscious mind, we can begin to see the world through a different lens, one that is more open, compassionate, and aligned with our true potential. The key to transforming our perception of reality lies in understanding the nature of the subconscious mind and learning to rewire it. This process involves bringing the subconscious into conscious awareness, examining the beliefs and patterns that govern our thoughts, and replacing limiting beliefs with empowering ones. Through practices such as mindfulness, meditation, and self-inquiry, we can begin to uncover the hidden influences of the subconscious mind and create new, more positive patterns of thought. The more we work to reprogram the subconscious mind, the more we begin to shift our perception of reality. As our beliefs about ourselves and the world change, so too does our experience of life. This process of transformation is not immediate, but with consistent effort and awareness, we can gradually free ourselves from the limiting patterns of the subconscious and open ourselves up to a new way of perceiving and experiencing the world. Harnessing the power of thought and belief. The mind, both conscious and subconscious, is a powerful tool. The thoughts we think, the beliefs we hold, and the emotions we experience all have a direct impact on the reality we create. Our thoughts are not just passive mental events. They are active forces that shape the world around us. What we think about consistently, what we focus our attention on, and the beliefs we hold about ourselves and the world all work together to create the life we experience. This realization is both liberating and empowering, for it means that we have the ability to change our lives by changing the way we think. One of the most powerful ways to harness the mind's creative power is through the practice of deliberate thinking and belief creation. When we become conscious of our thoughts and beliefs, we can begin to direct them in ways that support our desires and goals. Instead of allowing the mind to run on autopilot, we can consciously choose to focus our attention on the thoughts that serve us and release those that hold us back. This process of deliberate thinking involves training the mind to focus on positive, empowering thoughts that align with the vision we have for our lives. By consistently thinking thoughts that support our goals, we begin to rewire the subconscious mind, replacing old patterns of limitation with new patterns of possibility. Beliefs, too, play a crucial role in shaping our reality. Our beliefs act as filters through which we interpret the world, and they govern the way we approach challenges, opportunities, and relationships. If we hold limiting beliefs about ourselves, such as, "I'm not good enough," or "I'll never succeed," then our actions and behaviors will be influenced by those beliefs. We may procrastinate, self-sabotage, or avoid taking risks, all because we believe that we are incapable or unworthy. On the other hand, if we cultivate empowering beliefs, such as, "I am capable of achieving my goals," or "I deserve success," then our actions will align with those beliefs, and we will begin to take the steps necessary to create the life we desire. The power of belief is not just psychological, it is deeply intertwined with the subconscious mind. Our beliefs shape our reality by influencing the way we interpret events and take action. By replacing limiting beliefs with empowering ones, we can shift the trajectory of our lives and unlock our true potential. In the process of harnessing the mind's power, it is important to remember that change takes time. Rewiring the subconscious mind and shifting long-held beliefs requires consistent effort and practice. However, the rewards of this work are immense. As we become more conscious of our thoughts and beliefs, we gain greater control over our reality. We begin to see that we are not passive victims of circumstance, but active creators of our experience. By directing the power of our minds toward positive, empowering goals, we can transform our lives in profound and lasting ways. The mind is not just a tool for survival. It is a creative force that can shape the reality we live in. When we learn to harness this power, we unlock the potential within ourselves and create the life we truly desire. Chapter 7. Awakening the Higher Self. Reconnecting with the source of inner wisdom. The journey inward, reclaiming connection to the true self. There comes a point in every individual's life when the external world seems to fall short of its promises. We chase success, wealth, and achievement, often hoping that these external markers will bring us lasting fulfillment, only to find ourselves perpetually unfulfilled. The reason for this, although often hidden from our conscious awareness, is that we are searching for something that lies beyond the material world, something deep within us that cannot be found in the external realm. This elusive truth can be found in what many refer to as the higher self, the part of our being that is connected to a deeper, infinite source of wisdom, love, and knowing. This is the true essence of who we are, a self that exists beyond the conditioning of the mind, beyond the roles we play in society, and beyond the limitations of our physical existence. The higher self is not separate from us, but rather the core of our being, the pure consciousness that is eternally connected to the source of all life. To experience this higher self is to experience a profound awakening, a realization that we are much more than our thoughts, our emotions, or our physical bodies. It is the moment when we begin to recognize that we are not merely individuals, isolated and separate, but that we are part of a vast, interconnected web of consciousness. The journey inward, then, is a process of rediscovery. It is the act of shedding the layers of false identity that we have built up over the years and returning to the truth of who we really are. This process begins with awareness. We must first become aware of the ways in which we have disconnected from our true selves. These disconnections often happen gradually, as we begin to identify more with the roles we play and the external markers of success than with the deeper, more subtle aspects of our being. We become caught in the web of societal expectations, personal ambitions, and external validations, losing touch with the innate wisdom that lies within. To reconnect with our higher self, we must first let go of these external attachments and make space for the inner voice that has always been present, but has often been drowned out by the noise of the world. This requires patience, practice, and the willingness to go beyond the surface level of experience and into the depths of our consciousness. The practice of meditation is one of the most powerful tools for reconnecting with the higher self. Through meditation, we silence the chatter of the mind and create a space where we can listen to the whispers of our inner wisdom. It is in this stillness that we begin to access the deeper layers of consciousness, the parts of ourselves that have been hidden beneath the surface of our daily lives. In this space of silence, we can begin to discern the true voice of our higher self from the noise of the ego and the conditioned mind. It is important to remember that this journey is not about seeking something outside of ourselves, but about remembering what has always been within. The higher self is not distant or separate from us. It is always here, always accessible, if we are willing to turn inward and listen. Through consistent practice, we begin to strengthen our connection to this inner wisdom, allowing it to guide our thoughts, decisions, and actions in a more harmonious, aligned way. As we do, we experience a deep sense of peace, clarity, and purpose that transcends the fleeting and often unsatisfying pursuits of the external world. The higher self and its role in personal transformation. The higher self plays a pivotal role in our personal transformation. When we reconnect with this inner aspect of our being, we open the door to profound growth and evolution. The higher self is not merely a source of wisdom, but also a powerful catalyst for change. It holds the key to unlocking our fullest potential, helping us move beyond the limitations of our conditioned minds and allowing us to step into a new way of being. At the core of the higher self lies a deep, unshakable sense of love, acceptance, and understanding. This love is unconditional, transcending the judgments and limitations that we place upon ourselves. It is the love that allows us to see ourselves as we truly are, without the masks, without the stories, and without the judgments. This unconditional love is transformative because it frees us from the need to prove ourselves or to live up to the expectations of others. When we connect with this love, we begin to realize that we are enough just as we are. We no longer need to seek validation from the outside world because we know that we are worthy simply by virtue of our existence. This realization is the foundation for personal transformation, as it allows us to release the fears, doubts, and insecurities that have held us back. The higher self also offers us the wisdom and guidance necessary for navigating the challenges of life. It serves as a compass, pointing us toward the path that is most in alignment with our true nature. When we are guided by the higher self, we no longer have to rely solely on the limited perspective of the ego or the mind. The higher self sees the bigger picture, and it can help us navigate life's complexities with a sense of calm and clarity. This guidance is not always immediate or obvious, but it comes in subtle ways, through intuitive nudges, feelings of alignment, or quiet moments of insight. The more we trust and follow this guidance, the more we begin to experience a sense of flow in our lives, where things seem to unfold effortlessly, as if the universe is supporting us every step of the way. The higher self helps us move beyond the constant struggle for control and power, allowing us to surrender to the natural flow of life. In doing so, we cultivate a sense of peace and trust that we are exactly where we need to be, even in the midst of uncertainty. Personal transformation also involves the shedding of old patterns and beliefs that no longer serve us. As we reconnect with the higher self, we become more aware of the limiting beliefs and emotional blockages that we carry with us from the past. These patterns often stem from childhood conditioning, past traumas, or societal programming, and they prevent us from fully embracing our true potential. The higher self helps us to see these patterns clearly, and with its guidance, we can begin to release them. This process is not always easy, as it requires us to confront uncomfortable truths and face the parts of ourselves that we have been avoiding. However, it is through this confrontation that true healing and transformation occur. By aligning with the higher self, we begin to break free from the chains of our past conditioning and step into a new way of being, one that is authentic, empowered, and aligned with our highest purpose. This transformation is not a destination, but a continuous journey, one that unfolds over time as we deepen our connection with the higher self and allow it to guide us toward ever greater levels of self-realization and fulfillment. Living in harmony with the higher self. Living in harmony with the higher self is a practice that requires ongoing mindfulness and awareness. It is not enough to simply connect with the higher self in moments of stillness or meditation. We must also learn how to integrate this wisdom into our everyday lives. The higher self is not a distant, abstract concept, but a living, breathing presence that is meant to guide us in every aspect of our lives. This means aligning our thoughts, actions, and decisions with the wisdom of the higher self, rather than allowing the ego or the conditioned mind to take control. Living in harmony with the higher self requires that we become attuned to the subtle whispers of intuition and inner knowing that arise in each moment. These whispers are the voice of the higher self, guiding us toward choices that are in alignment with our true nature. Whether it is deciding what to eat, what career path to follow, or how to respond in a challenging situation, the higher self offers us the wisdom we need to navigate life with grace and clarity. One of the key aspects of living in harmony with the higher self is cultivating a deep sense of trust. The higher self knows what is best for us, even when we may not fully understand why certain things are happening. It is through this trust that we allow the wisdom of the higher self to guide us, even in the face of uncertainty. When we trust the higher self, we surrender the need for control and embrace the unknown. This trust creates a sense of peace, as we no longer feel the need to constantly plan or worry about the future. We come to understand that we are always supported, always guided, and always in the right place at the right time. Trusting the higher self also means letting go of fear and doubt. The ego often leads us to question our worthiness, our abilities, or the path we are on. But the higher self reassures us that we are exactly where we need to be. It reminds us that our true nature is infinite and unbounded, and that we are capable of achieving anything we set our minds to when we align with our higher purpose. Living in harmony with the higher self also involves the cultivation of compassion and love. The higher self is a source of unconditional love, and when we reconnect with this love, we are able to extend it to others. This love is not based on external conditions or judgments, but is a deep recognition of the divine essence within all beings. It is a love that transcends the ego's need for approval or validation, and instead seeks to uplift and support others on their own journeys. Living in harmony with the higher self means embodying this love in our interactions with others, treating them with kindness, respect, and understanding, regardless of their actions or behavior. In doing so, we not only deepen our connection with the higher self, but also create a ripple effect of love and healing in the world around us. The path to living in harmony with the higher self is not always easy, as it requires that we let go of old habits, beliefs, and attachments that no longer serve us. However, the rewards of this journey are immense. As we align more fully with our true essence, we experience greater peace, joy, and fulfillment. We become more authentic, more aligned with our purpose, and more connected to the divine flow of life. The higher self is not a distant ideal. It is a living, breathing presence within us, always guiding us toward our highest potential. When we learn to live in harmony with this inner wisdom, we unlock the full potential of who we truly are, and we begin to experience life in a more profound and meaningful way. Chapter 8. The Art of Surrender, Letting Go of Control and Embracing the Flow of Life. Understanding surrender as a path to freedom. In our modern fast-paced world, the concept of surrender is often misunderstood. It is frequently associated with weakness, passivity, or giving up, a notion that contradicts the prevailing cultural value of self-reliance and control. Yet, the true essence of surrender is not about submitting to fate or abandoning all personal responsibility. It is about letting go of the illusion of control, allowing life to unfold naturally without the constant effort to manipulate or force outcomes. It is the realization that, in our desire to control everything, we often resist the very flow of life that could bring us peace and fulfillment. Surrender is an act of trust, a deep understanding that life, with all its uncertainties, holds a wisdom far greater than our limited perspectives can comprehend. It is a paradoxical practice, for in releasing control, we actually gain the freedom to live more fully and authentically. This is the essence of surrender, not a passive giving up, but an active choice to let go of the ego's need to control, and instead to embrace the natural rhythm of existence. At its core, surrender is about acknowledging the limits of our own willpower. We are conditioned to believe that we must work harder, strive longer, and fight relentlessly to shape the course of our lives. The world teaches us that we must always be in charge, always striving to achieve, always pushing forward. However, in this constant state of striving, we often find ourselves exhausted, frustrated, and disconnected from the deeper truths of our being. Surrender invites us to release the need to control every aspect of our lives and to trust that, by letting go, we open ourselves up to the greater wisdom of the universe. It is not about inaction, but rather about aligning ourselves with the natural flow of life, working with it rather than against it. Surrender allows us to step back, to release the grip of the ego, and to create space for new possibilities to emerge. This shift is not always easy, as it requires us to confront our fears, doubts, and insecurities. It requires us to challenge the deeply ingrained belief that our worth is determined by how much we achieve and how much we control. Yet, when we are able to surrender, we experience a profound shift in consciousness. We stop fighting against the current of life and begin to float in its flow, experiencing a sense of ease and peace that is far more fulfilling than the endless struggle for control. The practice of surrender does not mean resigning ourselves to passivity or allowing life to happen to us without taking responsibility. Instead, it is about acknowledging the limitations of our individual power, while also recognizing that we are co-creators of our experiences. In surrendering, we allow ourselves to become open channels through which the wisdom and guidance of the universe can flow. This wisdom is available to us at all times, but it is only when we let go of our rigid expectations and open ourselves to the unknown that we can access it. Surrender is not a one-time act. It is a continuous practice, an ongoing choice to release control and trust in the unfolding of life. As we begin to practice surrender, we become more attuned to the subtle guidance that exists all around us. the intuitive nudges, the synchronicities, the opportunities that arise when we least expect them. We learn to navigate life with greater ease and flow, rather than pushing against the current and fighting against the natural order of things. Surrender is the key that unlocks the door to peace, freedom, and abundance, and it is only through embracing it that we can truly experience the fullness of life. The illusion of control and its impact on our lives. Control is a concept that is deeply ingrained in our collective consciousness. From a young age, we are taught to take charge of our lives, to make things happen, and to bend the world to our will. We are encouraged to set goals, make plans, and take decisive action in order to achieve success. In many ways, this mindset has served us well. It has driven human progress, innovation, and achievement. However, there is a dark side to this constant pursuit of control. The desire to control everything often stems from a deep-seated fear. Fear of uncertainty, fear of failure, and fear of the unknown. We believe that if we can control the outcome of every situation, we will be able to avoid pain, failure, or disappointment. Yet, in our quest for control, we often create more stress, anxiety, and frustration. The harder we try to control our circumstances, the more we begin to feel disconnected from the natural flow of life. We become obsessed with outcomes, constantly measuring our success or failure based on whether or not things go according to plan. This illusion of control has far-reaching consequences. It causes us to become overly attached to outcomes, leading to a state of perpetual anxiety and fear. When things don't go as planned, we feel as though we have failed, as if life has let us down. We begin to view every setback, every challenge, and every obstacle as a personal failure, rather than as an opportunity for growth and learning. The more we cling to control, the more we shut ourselves off from the spontaneous, creative flow of life. We become rigid and inflexible, unable to adapt to new circumstances or embrace the unknown. The pursuit of control also affects our relationships, as we try to manipulate others or situations to meet our expectations. This creates a sense of tension, resistance, and disconnection as we constantly attempt to force things into a mold that no longer fits. The more we strive for control, the more we create a sense of separation from the natural flow of life, and in doing so, we miss out on the richness of the present moment. When we let go of the need for control, we begin to experience life in a new way. We stop resisting the flow of events and start embracing whatever comes our way. We understand that life is inherently unpredictable, and that uncertainty is a natural part of the human experience. Rather than trying to control every aspect of our lives, we learn to trust in the process of life itself. We become more open to the unknown, more willing to embrace change and uncertainty, and more accepting of the unpredictability of life. This shift in perspective allows us to experience greater peace, freedom, and joy. When we stop trying to control everything, we open ourselves up to the infinite possibilities that the universe has to offer. Life begins to unfold in unexpected ways, and we begin to see that there is beauty and wisdom in the spontaneity of existence. The illusion of control begins to dissolve, and we are left with a sense of freedom that comes from embracing life as it is, rather than as we want it to be. The flow of life, embracing the power of surrender. When we truly begin to surrender, we tap into the flow of life itself, the natural rhythm that underlies all of existence. The flow of life is like a river, constantly moving, shifting, and evolving. It is the force that propels us forward even when we do not know where we are headed. It is a force that is always in motion, guiding us toward our highest good, even when we are not consciously aware of it. The more we resist the flow of life, the more we struggle and fight against it. We expend energy trying to control the direction of the river, but no matter how hard we try, we cannot stop its current. The key then is not to resist the flow, but to surrender to it. By surrendering, we allow ourselves to be carried by the current of life, trusting that it will take us exactly where we need to go. This act of surrender is not passive. It is a conscious choice to release the need for control and to embrace the present moment with open arms. The flow of life is not always predictable, nor is it always easy. There will be times when we face challenges, hardships, and difficulties. However, it is in these moments of adversity that we are often given the greatest opportunities for growth. When we surrender to life's challenges, rather than resisting them, we open ourselves to the lessons they hold. We learn to trust that even in the darkest of times, the flow of life is guiding us towards something greater. By embracing the flow, we let go of the need to control the outcome and instead focus on the experience of the journey itself. The process of surrender is not about passive acceptance, but about active participation in the unfolding of life. It is about aligning ourselves with the natural rhythm of existence and trusting that every experience, every moment, and every person we encounter is part of a greater plan. Living in the flow of life allows us to experience a sense of ease and grace that comes from being in alignment with our true selves. When we are in the flow, we feel connected to the present moment, and we trust that everything is unfolding as it should. We no longer feel the need to fight against the current, but instead allow ourselves to be carried by it, knowing that it will lead us exactly where we need to go. The flow of life is always available to us, but it is only when we surrender to it that we can fully experience its power and beauty. By letting go of the need for control and trusting in the process of life, we open ourselves up to a world of infinite possibilities. The flow of life is not something we must strive for. It is something we must surrender to, allowing it to guide us toward our highest potential. The art of surrender is a practice that requires patience, trust, and faith. It is a lifelong journey of learning to let go of the need for control and to embrace the natural flow of life. As we surrender, we begin to experience the world in a new way, one that is filled with peace, freedom, and joy. We move from a state of constant struggle to a state of effortless flow, where we are guided by a force far greater than ourselves. This is the power of surrender, and it is through this practice that we come to understand the true nature of life. Life is not something to be controlled or manipulated. It is something to be embraced, experienced, and celebrated. When we learn to surrender, we open ourselves to the infinite possibilities of the present moment, and we begin to live in harmony with the flow of life itself. Chapter 9. The Power of Presence. Embracing the Now. The Illusion of the Past and Future. In our daily lives, we are constantly torn between two opposing forces, the past and the future. Our minds often dwell in memories, replaying events that have already occurred, or they jump forward, anxiously anticipating what is yet to come. We tend to live in a constant cycle of reflection and projection, revisiting old wounds, reliving our successes, or imagining the scenarios that might unfold in the future. This constant mental movement between the past and the future creates a powerful illusion, an illusion that we are not fully present in the moment, and that the moment itself is somehow insufficient. We believe that the past holds the key to understanding who we are, and the future offers the hope of something better. Yet, in focusing so intently on what was or what could be, we miss the most important part of our existence, the present moment. The truth is that the only time we can truly experience life is in the now. The past is gone and the future is unknown. But the present moment is where life is unfolding, where all our experiences, relationships, and growth are happening. The mind's obsession with time, the past and the future, keeps us from tapping into the immense power of the present. We find ourselves constantly chasing after something that is always just beyond our reach, either in the memories of what once was or in the hopes of what might come. However, the truth is that the only moment that truly exists is the one we are living right now. The past, although it may have shaped us, cannot be changed. It is merely a collection of memories, each of which is tinged with both truth and distortion. Our recollections of events are often clouded by emotion, bias, and time itself. We cannot relive the past. We can only remember it. And even our memories are filtered through our current state of being, colored by our feelings, beliefs, and mental filters. What happened yesterday, last week, or even years ago is gone. What remains is the effect it has had on our present. And yet so often we cling to the past as if it holds the key to understanding our current circumstances. We may hold on to regrets, guilt, or resentment, believing that these emotions are a reflection of past actions or experiences. However, in holding on to these feelings, we allow them to dominate our present and keep us from fully experiencing the now. Similarly, our dreams, hopes, and fears about the future are just projections. The future is uncertain, and no amount of worry or anticipation can change what will unfold. We often live in a state of expectation, wondering what might happen, when it will happen, or how we can ensure that things turn out the way we want them to. However, this fixation on the future only steals our attention from the present. The more we focus on the future, the more we are pulled away from what is happening right here, right now. The truth is that the future will arrive when it does, and it will unfold in its own way, regardless of how much we try to control or predict it. The present moment is the only place where we can make a difference, where we can truly engage with life as it is, rather than as we wish it to be. This is the key to unlocking the power of presence, letting go of the grip of the past and the future, and choosing to immerse ourselves fully in the now. When we finally begin to let go of our attachment to time, whether it be the past or the future, we discover a profound truth. Life only happens in the present. The past is a memory, and the future is a mystery, but the present is where all experiences unfold. When we live in the present, we are fully engaged in life as it is, rather than being caught in a web of past regrets or future anxieties. It is in the present moment that we experience joy, peace, and connection. It is in the present that we can truly feel the richness of life, without the interference of past wounds or future worries. By choosing to be present, we begin to experience life in its fullest expression, without distraction, without hesitation, and without the mental noise that often clouds our perception of reality. The power of presence lies in its simplicity. It is the act of being fully aware of what is happening right now, without judgment or attachment. It is a way of living that allows us to connect more deeply with ourselves, others, and the world around us. The more we practice presence, the more we open ourselves to the beauty and richness of life that is available in every moment. The practice of being present. To embrace the power of presence, we must first learn how to cultivate it in our daily lives. Being present is not something that happens automatically. It is a skill that requires practice and conscious effort. The mind is naturally inclined to wander, to drift into thoughts about the past or the future, and to get lost in the endless stream of distractions that fill our lives. However, the practice of presence invites us to step out of this habitual pattern and to return to the present moment over and over again. One of the simplest ways to begin practicing presence is through mindfulness. Mindfulness is the practice of paying attention to the present moment without judgment or distraction. It is the art of being fully engaged in whatever we are doing, whether it is eating, walking, talking, or simply breathing. When we practice mindfulness, we focus our attention on the sensations, sounds, and feelings that arise in the present moment, without allowing our minds to wander off into the past or future. This can be as simple as noticing the sensation of the ground beneath our feet as we walk, or the taste of food as we eat. By bringing our awareness to the present moment in this way, we begin to train our minds to focus on what is happening right now, rather than getting caught in the distractions of time and thought. Another powerful practice for cultivating presence is meditation. Meditation allows us to quiet the mind, to let go of the constant chatter of thoughts, and to simply be. In meditation, we sit in stillness, allowing our attention to settle on the breath, on the sensations in the body, or on a particular point of focus. As we meditate, our minds may wander, but the key is to gently guide our attention back to the present moment, without judgment or frustration. Over time, this practice helps us to cultivate a deep sense of presence that we can carry with us into our daily lives. Meditation trains us to become aware of the present moment, to observe our thoughts and feelings without becoming attached to them, and to let go of the need to control or manipulate our experience. Through regular meditation practice, we develop a greater capacity for presence, allowing us to engage more fully with life and experience its richness and depth. In addition to mindfulness and meditation, there are many other ways to practice presence throughout the day. One of the simplest ways is to take breaks and pause throughout our daily routines. In the midst of our busy lives, we can take a moment to stop and bring our attention back to the present. This can be as simple as taking a deep breath, noticing the sights and sounds around us, or checking in with our bodies to see how we are feeling. By taking these moments to return to the present, we begin to interrupt the autopilot mode in which we often operate and become more conscious of the experience of being alive. Another powerful way to practice presence is through deep listening. When we truly listen to others without judgment or distraction, we are fully engaged in the moment, paying attention not only to the words being spoken, but to the underlying emotions and energy behind them. Deep listening allows us to connect more fully with others, to understand them on a deeper level, and to experience the richness of human connection. The practice of presence is not about perfection or constantly being in the moment. It is about developing a deeper awareness of the present and gradually training ourselves to engage with life as it is, rather than being caught up in distractions or mental chatter. The transformative power of living in the now. As we begin to practice presence more consistently, we start to experience a profound transformation in our lives. Living in the now allows us to experience the fullness of life, free from the constraints of time and mental distraction. When we are fully present, we are able to engage more deeply with our experiences, allowing them to unfold naturally and without resistance. This shift in consciousness brings about a sense of peace and ease that is not dependent on external circumstances. When we live in the now, we let go of the constant need for validation, approval, and control. We stop chasing after things that we believe will bring us happiness or fulfillment, and instead, we find joy and contentment in the present moment. This shift in focus also allows us to experience a deeper sense of connection with ourselves, others, and the world around us. When we are present, we are more attuned to the subtle energies of life, and we begin to see the interconnectedness of all things. We realize that the present moment is not just a fleeting moment in time, but the doorway to the infinite richness of life itself. The power of presence also has a profound effect on our relationships. When we are fully present with others, we are able to listen more deeply, to connect more authentically, and to respond from a place of true understanding. Presence allows us to show up for others without judgment or expectation, and to offer them our full attention and support. In doing so, we create deeper, more meaningful connections that are based on mutual respect, love, and understanding. This presence is not just about physical attention, but about being emotionally and mentally engaged with the people we are with. It is about showing up with an open heart and a clear mind, ready to engage with whatever the moment brings. As we become more present in our relationships, we also become more aware of the ways in which we are constantly shifting between the past and the future. We start to see how our fears, insecurities, and expectations can color our interactions, and we learn to release these attachments in order to experience each moment as it is. Living in the now also allows us to experience greater peace and freedom in our own lives. When we are present, we stop worrying about what might happen in the future and we stop regretting what has already happened. We free ourselves from the mental burdens that weigh us down, and we begin to experience life with a sense of lightness and ease. The present moment is a space where we can simply be, without the need to constantly do or achieve. It is a space where we can relax, recharge, and experience life as it unfolds. As we embrace the power of presence, we begin to see that life is not something to be endured or controlled, but something to be experienced and enjoyed. The more we practice presence, the more we become aware of the beauty, richness, and depth that exists in each and every moment. Life becomes a constant flow of possibility, and we learn to engage with it in a way that is both fulfilling and empowering. The power of presence is the gateway to living a life that is truly alive, a life that is full of connection, joy, and meaning. When we embrace the present moment, we step into the fullness of who we are, and we begin to experience life as it was always meant to be. Chapter 10. The Alchemy of Self-Awareness, Transforming the Inner Landscape. The mirror within self-awareness is one of the most profound and transformative powers we possess as human beings. It is the lens through which we can begin to view and understand ourselves, our behaviors, and the world around us. At its core, self-awareness is the ability to observe and reflect upon our thoughts, emotions, and actions without judgment. It is a state of being that allows us to recognize our habits, patterns, and internal narratives, and in doing so, gives us the power to change them. In the absence of self-awareness, we can become lost in the maze of our unconscious mind, acting out of impulse or habit rather than intentionality. We may live life on autopilot, unaware of the choices we are making or the impact they have on ourselves and others. In contrast, self-awareness offers us the ability to step back from our experiences, to observe them with clarity, and to make more conscious, deliberate decisions. It is, in many ways, a mirror that reflects not just the surface of who we are, but the depths of our inner landscape. And just as a mirror reflects our external appearance, self-awareness holds up a mirror to our inner world, showing us not just what we want to see, but what we need to see. The challenge of self-awareness is that it requires us to confront the parts of ourselves that may be uncomfortable or difficult to face, the shadows, the unresolved emotions, the patterns of behavior that no longer serve us. But in doing so, we can begin the process of transformation. By becoming aware of our inner workings, we gain the power to shape and refine our inner landscape, to move beyond the limitations of our past conditioning and step into a more authentic version of ourselves. The journey towards self-awareness is not always easy. It requires vulnerability and courage to look inward, to acknowledge the parts of ourselves that we might prefer to ignore. It is much easier to focus on the external world, the things and people around us, because they are tangible, visible, and easier to control. But the true power lies within. As we begin to develop self-awareness, we uncover layers of ourselves that have been buried beneath the surface. This process can be disorienting at first, as we begin to realize how much we have been shaped by unconscious beliefs, fears, and desires. But it is also profoundly liberating. When we bring our unconscious thoughts and behaviors into the light of awareness, we create the opportunity for transformation. We can choose to release old patterns, heal emotional wounds, and make new choices that align with our true values and desires. It is in this space of self-awareness that we can begin to practice self-compassion, treating ourselves with the same kindness and understanding that we would offer to a loved one. This is an essential part of the process, as it allows us to confront our imperfections and limitations without judgment, and to cultivate a sense of acceptance and love for ourselves just as we are. True self-awareness is not about perfection. It is not about becoming flawless or transcending our human nature. Rather, it is about embracing our humanity with all of its complexities, contradictions, and imperfections. It is about recognizing that we are constantly evolving, learning, and growing, and that this journey is not linear, but cyclical. It is through the lens of self-awareness that we begin to see that we are not defined by our past mistakes, our fears, or our limitations. Instead, we are defined by our capacity to learn, to grow, and to choose again. Self-awareness, when practiced with honesty and compassion, becomes a powerful tool for transformation. It allows us to step out of the reactive patterns of behavior that have been ingrained in us and to create a new path forward, one that is more aligned with our true nature and purpose. The layers of the self, understanding our inner landscape. As we embark on the path of self-awareness, we quickly realize that our inner landscape is not a singular monolithic entity, but a complex and multifaceted terrain. Our thoughts, emotions, beliefs, and experiences all create layers of our sense of self, and each layer interacts with the others in intricate ways. One of the first challenges we face in cultivating self-awareness is learning to distinguish between these different layers and understanding how they influence our behavior and perception of the world. At the most surface level, we have our thoughts, the constant stream of mental chatter that fills our minds throughout the day. These thoughts may be mundane, such as remembering what to buy at the grocery store, or they may be more profound, such as contemplating the meaning of life or our place in the universe. Thoughts are the most accessible layer of our inner landscape, and they are often the starting point for developing self-awareness. By observing our thoughts, we begin to understand the narratives that shape our perception of ourselves and the world. Are our thoughts predominantly negative or positive? Do we tend to ruminate on past mistakes, or do we focus on possibilities for the future? Are our thoughts judgmental, or are they compassionate and curious? The way we think about ourselves and the world greatly influences how we feel and behave, and by becoming aware of these thought patterns, we gain insight into the forces that shape our actions and decisions. Beneath the surface of our thoughts lies a deeper layer, our emotions. Our emotions are powerful indicators of our internal state, providing valuable information about our needs, desires, and values. However, emotions can also be tricky to navigate. We are often taught to suppress or ignore our emotions, especially those that are considered negative, such as anger, sadness, or fear. But in doing so, we deny ourselves access to valuable wisdom. Emotions are not inherently good or bad. They simply exist to inform us about our inner state. When we are able to observe our emotions without judgment, we create space for greater understanding. Are we feeling anxious? And if so, what is the source of that anxiety? Are we feeling joy? And what does that joy reveal about our values or desires? Our emotions are powerful messengers, and by becoming more attuned to them, we can better understand what is happening in our inner world. This awareness helps us make more informed choices about how we respond to our emotions, rather than being at the mercy of them. As we develop self-awareness, we learn to listen to our emotions, to honor them, and to use them as a guide for greater clarity and direction in our lives. Even deeper than our thoughts and emotions lies the layer of our beliefs, our core assumptions and convictions about ourselves, others, and the world. These beliefs are often formed early in life, shaped by our family, culture, and experiences. Many of our beliefs are unconscious, and they influence the way we perceive and interpret the world. For example, if we hold a belief that we are not good enough or unworthy of love, we may act in ways that reinforce this belief, such as avoiding intimacy or sabotaging our success. Similarly, if we believe that the world is a dangerous and hostile place, we may approach life with a sense of fear and defensiveness. Beliefs can be incredibly powerful, as they shape our perception of reality and influence our decisions and behavior. But because many of our beliefs are unconscious, we may not even realize they are influencing us. The process of self-awareness involves uncovering these hidden beliefs and bringing them into the light of consciousness. By questioning and examining our beliefs, we gain the opportunity to release those that no longer serve us and to replace them with beliefs that are more aligned with our true desires and values. It is in this process of uncovering and transforming our beliefs that we begin to experience the true power of self-awareness. The art of transformation, changing our inner landscape. Once we have cultivated a deeper understanding of our inner landscape, our thoughts, emotions, and beliefs, we can begin the process of transformation. The power of self-awareness lies in its ability to illuminate the areas of our lives that need attention and healing. Transformation is not an overnight process, but rather a gradual unfolding of new possibilities. It is the process of recognizing where we have been stuck in old patterns and choosing to move beyond them. Transformation begins with a shift in perspective. When we see ourselves clearly, without the distortion of our past experiences or limiting beliefs, we open the door to new possibilities. We are no longer bound by the constraints of our old ways of thinking and being. We can begin to choose new thoughts, new emotions, and new behaviors that are more aligned with our authentic selves. This shift in perspective often involves letting go of old identities and narratives that we have clung to for years. We may need to release the story of who we thought we were and open ourselves to the possibility of becoming something new. The next step in the process of transformation is taking conscious action. It is not enough to simply recognize our patterns and beliefs. We must also be willing to change the way we live our lives. This requires courage and commitment. It may involve setting new goals, developing new habits, and stepping outside of our comfort zones. Transformation requires us to take risks, to venture into the unknown, and to trust that the changes we are making are in alignment with our highest good. The process of transformation is not always easy, but it is always worth it. As we continue on this journey of self-awareness and self-discovery, we begin to feel more aligned with our true purpose and more empowered to create the life we desire. Transformation is an ongoing process, a continuous unfolding of new possibilities. It requires patience, perseverance, and a deep trust in the process. But as we commit to the work of self-awareness and transformation, we unlock the potential for a life that is rich with meaning, purpose, and fulfillment. Self-awareness, when practiced with intention and dedication, is the alchemy that transforms our inner landscape. It allows us to break free from the chains of unconscious patterns and beliefs and to step into the fullness of who we are. By embracing the mirror of self-awareness, we gain the power to shape our own lives, to release what no longer serves us, and to create a future that is aligned with our highest potential. Through this process, we not only transform ourselves, but we also transform the world around us, creating a ripple effect of change that touches all those we encounter. The journey of self-awareness is one of continuous growth, learning, and discovery. It is a journey that requires courage, vulnerability, and compassion, but it is also a journey that leads to profound freedom, joy, and fulfillment. Chapter 11: The Journey Beyond Ego, Discovering True Freedom. The Illusion of the Ego. At the heart of every human experience lies a sense of self, an identity that we often believe to be permanent, unchanging, and fixed. This identity is shaped by the accumulation of experiences, social conditioning, and personal beliefs that over time form what is known as the ego. The ego is the part of us that is concerned with survival, security, and self-preservation, and it is through the lens of the ego that we interpret the world around us. In many ways, the ego serves a useful purpose. It allows us to navigate the material world, make decisions, and protect ourselves from harm. However, the ego also creates a significant amount of suffering. It does so by convincing us that we are separate from others, that we must constantly prove our worth, and that we must cling to our identity in order to survive. This sense of separateness fuels the constant striving for more success, more possessions, more recognition, and perpetuates the cycle of desire and dissatisfaction. The ego, however, is an illusion. It is not a fixed, unchanging entity, but rather a dynamic collection of thoughts, feelings, and perceptions that change over time. The ego thrives on identification, identifying with our thoughts, emotions, and external circumstances as if they define who we are. This creates a false sense of self, one that is fragile and constantly in need of validation. The more we identify with the ego, the more we become entangled in its narrative, believing that we are our thoughts, our achievements, and our failures. This belief in the permanence of the ego is one of the primary sources of human suffering. We become trapped in a cycle of seeking external validation, chasing fleeting pleasures, and trying to control aspects of our lives that are ultimately beyond our control. The truth, however, is that the ego is not who we truly are. It is a temporary construct, a mask that we wear in the world, but it does not represent our essence. Beneath the layers of ego lies the true self, the part of us that is eternal, unchanging, and connected to all of existence. This true self is often referred to as the soul, the higher self, or the essence of being. It is the part of us that is free from the constraints of time, space, and circumstance. It is the part of us that knows no boundaries and is not defined by external factors. When we are able to transcend the ego, we begin to experience a profound sense of freedom. This freedom is not about escaping the world or denying our human experience. Rather, it is about seeing through the illusion of the ego and realizing that we are not limited by it. We are more than our thoughts, our emotions, and our circumstances. We are, in essence, boundless and infinite. It is in this realization that we discover true liberation, the liberation from the chains of the ego and the freedom to live authentically. Transcending the ego through awareness. The process of transcending the ego begins with awareness. The first step is to recognize that we are not our ego. We are not our thoughts, our emotions, or our past experiences. These things are temporary and constantly changing, but the true self is constant. By developing awareness of the ego, we begin to disidentify from it. We begin to see it for what it truly is, a collection of conditioned beliefs, fears, and desires that we have mistakenly taken to be who we are. This awareness is the key to freedom. It allows us to step back from the constant chatter of the mind and observe it without attachment or judgment. When we can observe our thoughts and emotions from a place of detached awareness, we no longer allow them to control us. We realize that we are not at the mercy of our ego, but that we have the power to choose how we respond to our thoughts and feelings. Awareness is not something that can be cultivated overnight. It is a practice, one that requires patience, commitment, and consistency. It is about learning to be present with whatever arises in the moment, without judgment or resistance. This means observing our thoughts and emotions without getting caught up in them, allowing them to come and go without attaching meaning or significance to them. It also means becoming aware of the stories we tell ourselves about who we are. These stories often reinforce the ego's sense of separateness and limitation, and they keep us stuck in patterns of fear, desire, and insecurity. By observing these stories with awareness, we can begin to question their validity and recognize them for what they truly are, fabrications of the mind that are not based in truth. As we develop greater awareness, we begin to see that our thoughts, emotions, and stories are not who we are. We are the observer of these things, not the things themselves. This shift in perspective is the key to transcending the ego. It allows us to step into a place of true freedom, where we are no longer bound by the illusions of the mind. The more we practice awareness, the more we begin to dissolve the power of the ego. We no longer feel the need to defend our identity, to prove our worth, or to seek validation from the outside world. Instead, we come to understand that our worth is inherent and unconditional. It is not dependent on our achievements, our possessions, or our relationships. It is the essence of who we are, and it can't be diminished or taken away. As we transcend the ego, we also transcend the need for external validation. We no longer feel the compulsion to compare ourselves to others or to seek approval. We become content with who we are in the present moment, and this sense of inner peace becomes the foundation for our experience of life. Living beyond the ego, the path to authentic freedom. Transcending the ego is not about rejecting or suppressing it. Rather, it is about recognizing it for what it is and no longer allowing it to dictate our lives. The ego will always be a part of our human experience, but it no longer has to control us. Once we have transcended the ego, we can begin to live from a place of authenticity. Authenticity is the expression of our true self, unfiltered and unencumbered by the stories and beliefs of the ego. It is the ability to be fully present with ourselves and others, to speak and act from a place of integrity and truth. Living authentically requires us to release the need for approval, to stop seeking validation from external sources, and to trust in our own inner wisdom. When we live authentically, we no longer feel the need to wear masks or conform to societal expectations. We embrace who we are, flaws and all, and we express ourselves in the world from a place of freedom and authenticity. Living beyond the ego also means living in alignment with our true values and purpose. The ego often leads us astray, tempting us to chase after things that are ultimately empty and unsatisfying. It encourages us to pursue external markers of success, money, status, power, while neglecting the deeper aspects of life that bring true fulfillment. When we transcend the ego, we reconnect with our true desires, those that come from the heart rather than the mind. We begin to live in alignment with our deepest values and passions, and in doing so, we experience a sense of fulfillment that is not dependent on external circumstances. Authentic freedom is not about escaping from the world or avoiding responsibility. Rather, it is about engaging with life fully, from a place of inner peace and purpose. It is about living in the present moment, free from the grip of past conditioning or future anxiety. When we live from this place of authentic freedom, we no longer feel the need to control our circumstances or other people. We trust in the flow of life, knowing that everything is unfolding as it should. We become like a leaf floating on a river, carried along by the current without resistance or struggle. Living beyond the ego also means embracing our interconnectedness with all of life. The ego thrives on the illusion of separateness. It defines itself in opposition to others, creating a sense of division and isolation. But when we transcend the ego, we come to realize that we are not separate from the world around us. We are interconnected with all beings, all experiences, and all of existence. This realization fosters a deep sense of compassion and empathy. We no longer see others as threats or competitors, but as fellow travelers on the same journey. We begin to treat others with kindness, understanding, and respect, recognizing that their struggles and triumphs are reflections of our own. This shift in perspective leads to a more harmonious and peaceful way of being in the world, one that is rooted in love and connection. In conclusion, the journey beyond ego is the journey to true freedom. It is a journey of self-discovery, of recognizing the illusory nature of the ego, and of stepping into a more authentic and empowered way of being. By cultivating awareness, transcending the limitations of the ego, and living in alignment with our true self, we can experience a freedom that is not dependent on external circumstances, but that arises from within. This is the freedom that comes from knowing who we truly are, beyond the ego, and from living in accordance with our highest truth. It is a freedom that allows us to fully embrace life, to express ourselves authentically, and to live in peace and harmony with all beings. Chapter 12. Embracing the present, the power of now. The illusion of the past and future time as we experience it is a construct. We perceive time in linear terms, categorizing our lives by the past, present, and future. This linear progression seems to define our existence, yet this perception of time can create a fundamental disconnect from the true nature of reality, which exists in the now. The past, which we often revisit in our minds, and the future, which we constantly project our hopes, fears, and plans onto, are both mere illusions. They are constructs of the mind that do not exist in the present moment, yet they exert a powerful influence on our thoughts and behaviors. By focusing on what has already happened or worrying about what might come, we lose touch with the only moment that is real, the present. The past, though it holds memories, experiences, and lessons, is nothing more than a series of fleeting moments that no longer exist. We often romanticize or regret the past, allowing it to shape our identity and decisions. This attachment to the past anchors us to memories that are no longer in our control, creating an emotional and psychological weight that keeps us from experiencing the fullness of life in the present. Similarly, the future is an ever-changing landscape shaped by our hopes, desires, and anxieties. We envision it in our minds, constructing plans and aspirations that we believe will bring us fulfillment. Yet, the future remains elusive, ever distant, and uncertain. We can never truly predict or control what is to come, and the more we focus on it, the more we detach ourselves from the only time in which we can act, the now. The constant preoccupation with the past and future traps us in cycles of regret, fear, and expectation, and it keeps us from fully embracing the present. The paradox of time is that the only time in which we can experience life is now. The present moment is the doorway to reality. It is in the present that all of our actions, thoughts, and emotions unfold. It is where we can feel, breathe, and engage with the world around us. The past is but a memory, and the future is a projection of our mind. When we constantly look outside the present, we miss the richness of what is here, right before us. The present is where true power lies. By embracing the now, we can experience life in its fullest, without the weight of the past or the uncertainty of the future. The power of presence. The present moment is a space of infinite potential. It is where everything that happens truly occurs. When we shift our focus from the past and future to the present, we open ourselves to a profound sense of peace and clarity. This shift is not merely a change in our thinking, it is a fundamental reorientation of our consciousness. When we practice being fully present, we step into a state of awareness where we can see things as they are, without the distortions created by the mind. We no longer react to life with automatic patterns of thought and emotion, but we respond to it with mindfulness and presence. The power of presence comes from its ability to free us from the tyranny of the mind. The mind, with its constant chatter about what has happened or what might happen, creates a veil over reality. We become so absorbed in our thoughts that we lose touch with the world around us. Our minds spin in endless loops of worry, judgment, and expectation, keeping us trapped in a cycle of stress and dissatisfaction. However, when we focus on the present moment, we begin to break free from this cycle. We stop identifying with the endless flow of thoughts and instead recognize ourselves as the awareness behind those thoughts. This shift allows us to detach from the mental patterns that previously controlled us, giving us the space to experience life directly and without distortion. Being present is not just a mental practice, it is an embodied experience. To truly be present, we must engage with the world using all of our senses. We must fully inhabit our bodies, noticing the sensations, sounds, and sights that surround us. This immersion in the present moment allows us to experience life with greater depth and richness. It is in this presence that we find our true connection to ourselves and the world. When we are fully present, we no longer feel the need to escape or avoid our experiences. We embrace them as they are without judgment or resistance. This openness to the present moment is the key to inner peace. It allows us to let go of the constant striving and seeking that characterize much of human existence. When we embrace the present, we find that life becomes simpler, more direct, and more fulfilling. The power of presence also lies in its ability to ground us in the here and now. In our fast-paced, constantly connected world, it is easy to become scattered, pulled in many different directions. We are bombarded by external stimuli, constantly multitasking and dividing our attention. This fragmentation of attention leads to stress and a sense of disconnection. When we cultivate presence, we return to the center of our being. We stop trying to control or fix everything, and instead allow ourselves to be fully immersed in the experience at hand. Whether we are eating a meal, taking a walk, or having a conversation, presence allows us to engage with the world in a way that is meaningful and fulfilling. By grounding ourselves in the present moment, we reclaim our power to experience life in its truest form. Living in harmony with the now. Living in harmony with the present moment requires a shift in how we approach life. It means letting go of the need to control every aspect of our experience and allowing ourselves to flow with the rhythms of life. This does not mean being passive or complacent. Rather, it means engaging with life in a more relaxed and receptive way. It means trusting that everything is unfolding as it should, and that we do not need to force or manipulate outcomes. When we live in harmony with the now, we become more attuned to the natural flow of life. We stop fighting against what is, and instead learn to accept and work with it. Living in harmony with the present moment also involves cultivating gratitude. The more we focus on the present, the more we realize how much there is to appreciate right here and now. Often, we take the present moment for granted, believing that true happiness or fulfillment lies in the future. However, when we stop to truly experience the present, we discover that life is full of beauty and richness. We can find joy in the simplest things: a warm cup of tea, a moment of silence, the sound of birds chirping. These small everyday experiences hold incredible value when we are fully present to them. Gratitude for the present moment shifts our focus from what we lack to what we have, allowing us to experience abundance in the here and now. Another aspect of living in harmony with the present is letting go of attachment. We often cling to certain outcomes or expectations, believing that they will bring us happiness or fulfillment. However, this attachment creates tension and disappointment when things do not unfold as we desire. When we let go of attachment, we stop trying to control every detail of our lives and instead trust in the flow of the present moment. We allow life to unfold naturally, without resistance. This does not mean we abandon our goals or dreams, but rather that we release the need to control how or when they will come to fruition. By surrendering our attachment to outcomes, we open ourselves to greater freedom and peace. We no longer feel burdened by the weight of expectation, but instead, we embrace each moment as it is. In conclusion, embracing the present moment is the key to experiencing life in its fullest and most authentic form. It allows us to break free from the illusions of the past and future and to step into a state of awareness, presence, and peace. By cultivating presence, we release the grip of the mind, allowing us to experience life directly without distortion. Living in harmony with the now requires letting go of control, cultivating gratitude, and releasing attachment to outcomes. When we do so, we discover a deeper sense of fulfillment and contentment that comes from living in alignment with the present moment. The present is all we have, and it is in the present that we find our true power, our true peace, and our true freedom. Chapter 13. The Alchemy of Letting Go. The Art of Surrender. The Struggle for Control. In the course of human life, the desire for control emerges as one of the most potent forces shaping our experiences. It is deeply ingrained within us. a survival instinct that seeks to protect, direct, and influence the outcomes of our lives. From a young age, we are conditioned to believe that we must control our environment, our relationships, and even our thoughts to navigate the complexities of the world. The desire for control becomes a part of our identity, something we believe we cannot live without. The illusion of control gives us a sense of security, of stability. And yet, it is this very pursuit that often leads us to a deeper sense of frustration and exhaustion. The more we try to control, the more we become entangled in the web of fear and resistance, the more we struggle against the flow of life itself. We begin to believe that our worth, our happiness, and our success are all contingent upon our ability to manipulate and dictate the course of our lives. We cling to this idea with unwavering determination, even when it no longer serves us. In doing so, we create a conflict within ourselves, one that keeps us from experiencing the natural unfolding of life. The irony, however, is that the more we strive to control, the more we end up controlling less. Life is inherently unpredictable, and no matter how much we try to shape it according to our desires, there will always be variables beyond our control. This realization often comes when we encounter hardship, loss, or failure, moments in which we are forced to confront the limitations of our power. In these moments, the illusion of control is shattered, and we are left to face the raw reality of life's uncertainty. It is in these moments that we are presented with a choice: to continue to fight against the flow of life, or to surrender to it. Surrender, however, is not a passive resignation to fate. It is an active choice to release the need to control and to trust in the natural order of things. It is an invitation to step into a state of openness and acceptance, where we relinquish the belief that we must always have a tight grip on our circumstances. Letting go is not about giving up. It is about recognizing that the flow of life is not something to resist, but something to be embraced. The struggle for control often comes from a place of fear. The fear that if we let go, we will lose everything, or that we will be left vulnerable and exposed. This fear is rooted in the ego, which thrives on the illusion of separation and the need to protect itself. The ego wants to maintain a sense of power, to hold on to what is familiar, and to avoid the unknown. However, the truth is that true freedom lies in the act of letting go. When we release our grip on the need for control, we open ourselves up to the possibility of life unfolding in a way that is beyond our imagination. Letting go creates space for new opportunities, new experiences, and new ways of being. It is a paradoxical truth. By surrendering our need for control, we gain the freedom to live authentically and with greater ease. The art of surrender is not a concept that is easily understood or embraced in a world that prizes achievement, success, and self-reliance. We are taught from an early age that we must work hard, push forward, and assert our will in order to succeed. Surrender, in contrast, is often perceived as weakness, passivity, or failure. We fear that if we let go, we will be seen as inadequate or incapable. Yet, true surrender is the opposite of weakness. It is the conscious choice to release our resistance to what is and to trust that life will unfold in its own way. It is an act of profound strength and wisdom. Surrender requires us to let go of the need to control every detail and to embrace uncertainty with grace and trust. The art of surrender involves a deep understanding of the impermanence of all things. Everything in life, our thoughts, emotions, relationships, and circumstances, is temporary and constantly changing. When we resist the flow of life, we are essentially resisting change, which is inevitable. The more we resist, the more we create suffering, because we are fighting against the natural course of events. To surrender, then, is to recognize that change is not something to fear, but something to embrace. It is to trust that whatever is unfolding in our lives is part of a larger plan, even if we can't see the full picture. Surrender does not mean giving up on our dreams or goals. Rather, It means releasing our attachment to the outcome. We can still strive, work hard, and pursue our passions, but we do so without the need to control the results. We learn to take action without attachment, to put forth our best effort while remaining open to whatever happens next. This openness allows us to flow with life rather than against it. The practice of surrender requires a shift in perspective. It is about moving from a mindset of scarcity to one of abundance, from a belief that there is not enough to a belief that everything we need will come in its own time. Surrender is about trusting the process of life, knowing that we do not have to force things to happen. When we are able to surrender, we create space for the universe to bring us what we need, often in unexpected and beautiful ways. This does not mean that life will always be easy or smooth. There will still be challenges and struggles. However, when we practice surrender, we approach these challenges with a sense of ease and acceptance. We stop fighting against the circumstances and instead meet them with an open heart and mind. In this way, surrender becomes a path to inner peace. It is the realization that we do not need to control everything in order to be happy, and that peace comes when we allow life to unfold naturally. The freedom of letting go. Letting go is not only about releasing control, but also about letting go of the past, of old wounds, and of attachments that no longer serve us. We often hold on to the past out of fear or habit, believing that by holding on, we can somehow protect ourselves or preserve something important. However, the past is gone, and clinging to it only keeps us stuck in patterns of pain, regret, and resentment. Letting go of the past requires forgiveness of ourselves and others. It means releasing the emotional